same thing in fly fishing. Like when you have a rod load itself for the first time and you feel that and you kind of see the whole thing, there's a moment in your brain you're like, this is what I've been trying to do for so long, and now why did I just now figure it out? If you're really getting started, get a rod you're comfortable casting. Like a lot of fly shops will let you test gear and stuff like that, or buddies you know are into it, see what they're using, like test it, but try to cast a rod before you practice your short game. Like honestly, like a big thing I like to get guys to do is just strip out enough line. Say like you have a leader, it's usually like 9 to 12 feet, so you got to count that in a range. 10 feet of that, 10 to 15 feet of fly line at the tip, and then just pick up and then put down. Fly fishing's muscle memory, and like it's like hunting or anything. Like when you can do it in your yard all you want, but then when I have like, dude, what do we have, like 500 to 1,000 redfish in front of us today? Like, yeah, some guys like will look at that and then like everything they know just goes out the window. But if you have that fundamental muscle memory, like you're gonna be more successful.
Alright guys, welcome to another episode of the Skiff Wanderer Podcast. Today I've got a special guest, Mr. Marcus Haralson, a local guide here in Corpus Christi, and also podcast host. Mm-hmm. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that got a little different setup today for the podcast. We're in the Wilder Bin podcast studio.
Welcome.
So that's probably why the audio sounds better than it normally does when I do it. It's good, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Alright, so hey, Marcus, where are you from?
I'm originally born and raised Corpus Christi. Like, so from here, I actually grew up not too far from here, like a couple blocks.
And then, did you grow up, so you're a fly fishing guide.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing that for about 10 years?
10 years, yep. September 10 years.
How long did you start, were you fly fishing when you were growing up?
No, never fly fishing. I didn't even really know about it at all growing up. There was a Green Outfitters where on a road out here, and they had like a fly shop, but it was like all river type stuff, so no real idea about it at all.
Did that how old were you, or how long ago did you start?
I was 24 maybe. So like, yeah, almost 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
Yeah.
What, did you start fly fishing out west, right?
Actually East Coast. You want me to tell you about that, or you want to
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what happened was I was in the military for 10 years, and I was in Quantico, and I was on a rifle range or whatever. Like I was a corpsman, so like just checking, make sure guys don't get hurt or whatever. And a guy I was working with brought like a fly tying book one day, and I was checking it out, going through it, and I was really like, oh, this is really interesting. And I don't know if you can see me behind me, I like art, and I can't draw or paint or anything. So I used to do a lot of writing because it's like a creative outlet for me. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw the fly tying, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like very artistic, and I wanted to get into it. So that's kind of how.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking at, I didn't know something about it. So then he brought the next day, he brought like a vise, like a little cheap vise, like screw onto a table, and then a bunch of random material inside like a grocery bag, and some hooks and stuff. And he's basically like sat me down while we were like doing this op, and he was like, hey man, like easiest fly to go with and like start with, let's say, is like a woolly booger, and like figure that out. And I did it, but it's weird if you don't tie, like if you've never seen anybody tie, or like this is way pre-YouTube and like Facebook and like all that. None of that shit existed back then. Oh, can I cuss on your podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
a little bit.
Okay, I won't. Yeah. Ours are, I don't know, like ours is like, oh man, you can't say it, but we don't have. Anyway, so
I always forget.
What?
Like that I'm like I can never remember if I'm like, it's my podcast.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if I'm allowed to cuss or not on it.
Oh, I mean, I just listen every time. I mean, you're allowed to cuss on podcast. Anyway, I didn't know if yours like really like clean. Anyway, so he brought the stuff, and when I was tying it originally, I was doing it backwards, like starting at the head and working backwards. So my woolly boogers are backwards looking. You know what I mean? Like when you tie a material, you know what I mean? And you're going over the feathers of the line, and like it's just like the whole cadence of tying and like getting it all, like setting yourself up to bring it all towards the eye. And I didn't realize that. So I had a couple, like, I tied on my own, and he looked at it and was like, oh, dude, what did you do? And, like, nobody wanted me to, like, go examine it and try to go through on my own and do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, say, hey, this is what you did wrong and whatever. And he was super great at teaching me on it. And so I got into tying, and I tied for, like, a year or two straight before I touched the fly rod.
No shit.
Yeah, so, like, while I was stationed in Quantico, I was in the field all the time, so I was like, and at home, I just needed a way to like decompress, and like a way to do that is tying for me. And I would tie hundreds of flies a week, and I had so many flies everywhere and shit everywhere. And
Just, like, you weren't selling them, you weren't giving them away,
No,
you just were stockpiling them.
yeah, and they were all garbage, like all of them, like straight shit. I still have some of them around here, and they're straight. You look at them, and you're like, what is this? And you're like, because like. For me, like again, like I said earlier, tying was an artistic expression for me. And you like, I'm from the Salt, so being in Quantico, it's all, and like Virginia, you lived in Virginia, and it's all a lot of bass streams, stripers and creeks. There's a lot of offshore stuff, but a lot of it's like creeks and ponds and little rivers. So we'd go down the Rappahannock, and like I was canoeing, not kayaking, canoeing the Rappahannock with buddies like on weekends, and we were fishing it. And I was like, hey man, I should try to like, where river runs through it and like use some of these flies.
All these flies you've been stockpiling, yeah.
Yeah, so I called actually a really famous fishing company and kind of was like, hey man, I want to get into fly fishing. You guys are like the ones I heard I had to talk to. And they tried to sell me a 5-weight setup and an 8-weight setup. They were both over $1,000 a piece, the setups. And they wanted to, and when I said to the guy, like, man, and they like put the total, because you're like, it wasn't doing it on the internet. I was like talking to a guy on the phone. It was like, oh, do you want this tippet, or do you want? I was like, I don't know what any of this shit is.
What,
like,
yeah.
Because there's a lot. If you're getting into fly fishing, you don't fish. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of gear and like stuff you don't know what it is. It's out of your wheelhouse or spectrum of like what you know. So the guy's like telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, okay. Throw in the cart. And it was like $2,500.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, because it's funny, people say I have a lot of expensive hobbies, like climbing or like sailing, or like these things are like not cheap to do. So, and I was like, man, do I really need another expensive hobby? I'm like, just to get in the door, it cost me $2,500. Like, that's an expensive door entry fee. I was like, I might as well start getting into kite surfing, which is something I was really into too, or like building race cars. So, I told the guy, like, man, I just rather like get one to like see if I like it. And he goes, hey, you know what? This is fly fishing. If you were going to be serious about it, you'd spend the money, and hung up on me.
What?
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
And I'm not going to name companies, but we're talking one of the largest companies out there that is still...
If it's the company I think it is, there's a lot of people that don't like them.
Smells like s'mores. But anyway, so it was quite interesting. And it really turned me off. Like, really. It basically was to the point where, like, well, I'm just going to tie. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about the fly fishing. I didn't know anything about it. Like,
and then you couldn't get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and I couldn't even get my... That's why I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, who gives a shit?
Do you know how much my first fly rod cost me?
Let's hear it.
$40.
Mine was $89, whole setup.
Yeah, that's what it was. A whole setup.
Yeah.
And actually, it was a Shimano, like the old Fluger.
Oh, really?
And,
like a Shakespeare?
Yeah, Shakespeare. That's right,
it.
Shakespeare. And then, so when I was growing up in Columbia, the Shakespeare factory is in Columbia.
Oh,
and
shit.
once a year, they'd have like a garage sale of everything they couldn't sell. They couldn't sell that year. And so, like, we would go there. And I'd get to go with my dad, and basically we're walking around. And my buddies had been fly fishing up in North Carolina, and so I'd heard about it and picked this thing up, fully set up, $40. And I was looking at my dad, I was like, dude, can I buy this? And he's like, it's your money, dude. Whatever you want. It's a waste of time, but if that's what you want.
How old are you?
I think I was 16.
Oh, shit, yeah, so you've been fishing the same as me, the same amount of time then, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we're like 10 years apart or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But everybody thinks like, especially like if you're like just getting into the sport and you're coming at it from like watching anything, $1,200 or $2,500 sounds like, yeah, I mean that's what like I'm watching YouTube and that's what these guys are doing to do what I do. Like, dude, just you can go to Cabela's, you can go to wherever.
Bass Pro, any of those places, yeah.
Just to get your foot in the door.
And that's what I ended up doing. Like, I went to Bass Pro Shop because I talked to I was like an instructor, so I had a bunch of like college kids as lieutenants I was training, and we were talking about stuff, and they were like, "Hey man, you can." They just like they grew up in college, and I was like, you know what I mean. So like they had like a background, or some of the guys had a background in fly fishing, and like, dude, just go get a Bass Pro Shop like White River setup. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay. So I went to like Bass Pro Shop and the fly shop, and whatever, that's a whole other topic for another conversation of a podcast. But I was like, I need a White River setup or whatever, and the dude's like, all right, and they, like $89, man, like rod, reel, fly line, like a fly box maybe even, like no flies, but I was like, dude, I got like thousands of them. And let's make a note on this really fast. That was like in 2004, 2005, 6, somewhere in there, and flies are like 25 cents a fly. And when I see like $25, $15 flies, $10 flies, I'm like, I get why some flies are $10 now, but like $25 for a fly when I used to get them for 20 cents, dude, to $1, you're like, oh, that's something.
I don't like throwing a fly that's over $10.
That's crazy to me.
I'm like, ooh, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah. If I was going to sell flies, you're not going to get a fly to me for under like $10, $12.
Yeah, but then that's like,
And I don't sell flies. Nobody can buy a fly from me, but like, yeah, that'd be the way.
Yeah, I mean, all the guys I know that sell them, I think they're selling them like $8 to $12 for most of the ones they sell. And then like the ones that are $12, like they're not easy to make.
Yeah, exactly.
They take time.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Especially like if you want like the quality.
Yes.
Somebody that's hand tying.
And that's the thing. Like you can get cheaper flies certain time. Like that's another one of those things that's mass produced flies, but like little things like clousers or gotchas or like simple ties. It's not worth it. Like I can't believe some people charge like $10 for a clouser. You're like, hey man, that's like $1 fly. Like it's a piece of buck here, a buck out. It's a B chain and our dumbbells and a hook. I use expensive hooks, but like not $10 expensive hooks.
Yeah.
Anyway, another topic. Yeah, that's how I got into it. I started tying. I tied for like a year, and then progressed. And shit, I'm a guide now. Like. Where the hell did my life go?
Did you did you start off with the 5-weight setup or the 8-weight?
8-weight. I was going after a smallmouth on that river.
Okay.
On the rabbit
Yeah.
So originally, my target species was largemouth and smallmouth.
Yeah.
That's what they had in that Rappahannock River, and it was interesting to learn. Man, it took me a really long time to get it. Like, I always tell people like that are getting into this. There's one day. There's just like what Oprah says, like an aha moment. That's a plug to you, Oprah. So like, you should hook us up. But
she
show us that Oprah money.
Yeah, she listens to this. Actually, like I get critiques from her weekly. So.
No shit, Oprah listens to my podcast too, dude. She's trying to be a guest. So like, I was like, what do you know about Texas hunting and fishing? Like, yeah. So, no, but she says there's this aha moment. And the same thing in fly fishing. Like when you have a rod load itself for the first time and you feel that and you kind of see the whole thing, there's a moment in your brain you're like, this is what I've been trying to do for so long. And now, why did I just now figure it out? And it's crazy because like I have 10 years of this stuff. So I've had clients touch a fly rod and be like, oh shit, just hit this, but like fling it in the air a little bit, like hear a little bit of instruction, and in 10 minutes are dumping cash. You're like, well, all right then. And I've had guys that have come to like 9 to 10 casting lessons, have gone out on the boat multiple times, and they play the guitar now, and you're just like, yeah, it's not for you, man.
This is not gonna work.
Yeah, and that's all. I've only had that like once or twice where I couldn't get a guy's dialed in. Like guy leaves, has all this great info, like has his cast in. Comes back the next time, and it's like,
good to go.
What happened, man?
No, the
like,
others.
Yeah, like I mean, I get both, but like when they don't remember, like, hey, dude, like you're supposed to be practicing, and that's another thing. If you're just getting into fly fishing, like
You have to practice.
Practice, like, casting in your yard at least once a week would make a huge difference.
You know what's interesting to me too about like when you get into fly fishing, everybody tells you, dude, you gotta practice. Dude, you gotta practice. And I don't know what it is, but that's what I did. Like, I figured out, I would just go out and wade fish and just practice casting when I wasn't seeing stuff and just to get practice down.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about, like, man, like, you get into spin fishing, like, you never hear that, like, oh, you need to practice. And I was thinking about that. I was like, well, when you were 3, your dad handed you a spinning rod with a rubber plug on it and told you to go outside. And so, like, even with spinning, like, we all sat there and practiced. We just didn't realize, that we were practicing because we were little kids at the time.
And once you get the cast down, though, on a bait cast or a spinning rod, it's the same every time.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And there's, like, different arcs. And, like, there's another whole realm we could get into on that. But, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you're in it.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then, and then, like, fly casting is, like...
Where's the button? I love when clients ask me that. Like, oh no, it's going to be a long day. Hey, and if you listen to this and you book me, don't say that shit just for fun. I say stuff on our podcast sometimes, and dudes will, like, message me, like, because they hear it, because they're, like, friends or whatever, and our clients will message me, and I'll be like, what is this dude talking about? And I'm just like, I have to think for a minute. Well, if you said, like, we do a podcast every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, dude, if you listen to a podcast 60 or 40 episodes ago, like, I have no idea what you did.
You don't keep track of that?
Oh, dude, I wish. And I'm smart, but, like, I can remember a bunch of shit, but I don't remember, like, everything I tell you not to say.
Yeah. Remember that one time? No, I don't remember that one time I said that.
Yeah. And that's weird, too. Like, you have a podcast now. Do you think, like, guys that hear... I'm asking you a question on your own podcast. But,
that's
like,
fine.
But guys, like...
that's actually why I set it up.
They listen to you, and they get to know you, and when they meet you, they're like...
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's so weird, and I'm like, and I don't mind. I love people. Like, I'll talk to anybody that'll talk to me. Like, I don't, like, not a dick like that. I'm not famous, like, fucking whatever. But, like, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And to me, it's weird, like, when people come up to me that follow me on, like, social media or podcasts or, like, other stuff, you're like, wait a minute. I've never met you before. Like, you have to realize that, like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I don't even know what your name is. Like, people come up to me, they're like, Doc, what's up, high five, and, like, all this shit, in the whole entire, like, 5 minutes in my head, I'm like, who the F is this person? Like, I don't know this guy's name. I've never even seen him in my... I have a pretty good facial recognition.
Yeah.
Like, no clue who half the people are. Happened to me the other night at that fly trap deal. Dudes are coming up, like, what's up? Like,
it's happened to me. It's happened to me a couple times, and, like, it's, like, it literally has happened to me a couple times. Like, twice it has happened to me, and to the 2 guys that did do that, like, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I think it takes a little bit of getting used to, and I am not used to it.
Yeah.
At all. And, like, I've talked to my buddies Adam and B who do the short butts, who they can't go to a river almost out west without somebody recognizing them.
Oh yeah, especially in that bus.
And then and then, like, I've talked to Adam, and he's like, dude, every time I go grocery shopping, like, I can't get to the grocery store without somebody recognizing me. And I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, just try to be friendly and, like, just try to, like, relax. But it's like like the 2 guys that I met, like, I totally was like, what's going on right here? And then, like, my wife was with me for one of them, and she's, like, elbowing me afterwards, like, dude, you're doing it like people know you.
Yeah. See, I always get like, why didn't you introduce me? I was like, I have no clue who their names are, Dave. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's a good one, though, to be like, oh, this is my girlfriend. What? And then they tell you their names, but, like,
No, but I mean, like for me, like, it's the same thing, though. Like, honest to goodness, like, anybody that, like, listens to any of this or follows the YouTube channel, like, if you run into me, like, dude, 100% down to, like, get to know you. Just don't come in too hot. Yeah, come in and just tell me your name. Be like, hey, we've never met before, so I don't feel like... But then also on that same note, like, this is funny. Like, we've had 2 guests on the podcast. We had a shitload, but, like, over... Recently, we had 2 guests on the podcast where I ran into them in public,
at the grocery store and at the airport, both these guys, and I didn't know who they were. And they were on my podcast, but it's again like, dude, we've had like 30 people on the podcast, and it's like, I'm not picking the talent necessarily to come on, and then you're like, oh man, I don't know who this is. Yeah, but anyway, it's pretty interesting.
Let's get back to casting.
Okay.
So do you still run the clinic?
Yeah, I mean, I do like a lot of fly casting, casting stuff, and like I'll do tying and stuff like that. I do more like private lesson type stuff now, but typically, when it starts cooling off a little bit, we'll start doing like group events. Like we used to do fly shop stuff, but it's really hard to like work with shops, kind of sometimes too much because got other shops won't let you in. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just the fly, what we were talking about, but Anyway, so like, I just do it all at parks now and like places that are pretty chill.
Dude, what are some tips like for beginners? So like, if we get like a lot of like the following that I have is a lot of like beginners, like guys trying to learn on their own and stuff. So like, what kind of like tips, techniques, like you feel like would you like share with anybody?
I would say like if you're really getting started, I say like the rod and the fly line. I feel like if you're gonna spend money, like you can get the White River set up and all that stuff, and that's perfect to learn. Like just to see if it's even something you're interested in. You can catch fish on it like that, but in like 6 months or less, you're gonna want to upgrade. So I say like honestly, like get a rod you're comfortable casting. Like a lot of fly shops will let you test gear and stuff like that, or buddies are into it, see what they're using, like test it, but try to cast a rod before you buy it. Like if you're spending under $100 on a complete setup, under $150, buy it and walk out the door and don't say a word. But if you're spending like serious money on it, over like $3 to $5, $6 to $1,000, you need to touch it, I think, and see if it's even worth something to do.
And the other thing that that I'll add to that is when you're practicing, like when you're testing it out, while it is great to know that a rod can bomb an 80-foot cast, try out the 20 footers, the 30 foot, like the casts you're actually going to be using. Yeah. Like test those casts out. Make sure like it handles those. Like you have accuracy at like short ranges is more important than a rod that you can go out and bomb 100-foot cast, because the chances of you actually taking that cast on the boat versus the 20 to 30-foot cast are just...
Yeah, like I would never even let you take like a 60-foot cast off my boat to 100-foot, like if I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, like just give me a second, I'll get you there. Like I'll pull you to it. But like people don't realize, like I get so many calls from guys that be like, oh, I can bomb a cast 60 feet. Like, what's your 20-foot look like? Or what's your 10-foot? Like, who cares about 10 feet?
How fast can you get a 20-foot cast out accurately?
Yeah, and it's like zero. Yeah,
it's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while. But that's what I'd say. Like, practice your short game. Like, honestly, like a big thing I like to get guys to do is just strip out enough line. Say like you have a leader, it's usually like 9 to 12 feet, so you got to count that in a range. I don't usually put anything but like yarn. I usually just take like sewing yarn, cut a piece off, tie it on there. Use flies. I'll just take like a pair of vice grips and take a bunch of old flies and just pop all the hooks off at the bend, and just use those for casting practices. But I'd say honestly, like put a little bit of fly weight on, because that kind of helps. So you kind of get used to that movement. But 10 feet of that, 10 to 15 feet of fly line at the tip, and then just pick up and then put down. I think that's like really like getting that movement just to come up here and stop.
Because you get the feeling from it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the times you see this and you see guys do all this stuff, but like they don't have the pause techniques. Like it's a deliberate pause, I think, a lot of the time to get a better cast in. And then that back cast always usually drop. People drop their back cast so much. So like honestly, like I tell guys to stop at their ear. It's like on their back cast, I tell them to stop like right about at their ear, and then just put it down, and then come back to their ear, put it down, and when you kind of get that down, go back and then put it down. You know what I mean? And like I try to get those fly fishing's muscle memory, and like it's like hunting or anything. Like when you can do it in your yard all you want, but then when I have like, dude, we have like 500 to 1,000 redfish in front of us today, like. Yeah, some guys like will look at that and then like everything they know just goes out the window. But if you have that fundamental muscle memory, like you're gonna be more successful. Like straight up, like it's just what it is. And yeah, I think just like those little things, like the shorter casts, like don't be so hard on yourself. Like a lot of guys like put a little target out there. Like I use frisbee. Like I play a lot of disc golf. Like well, I don't even know if that's the correct term. It's like frisbee. I don't know. Anyway, people get so mad when I call it disc golf. But anyway, I use those as my targets personally. But like if like you were just coming into fly fishing or whatever, I would use like a hula hoop or something bigger target or. I'm just trying to get you to, I'm really honestly, I don't even put targets out for like, I do, but I don't have guys casting at targets right away. Like at parks and stuff. I'd rather have them kind of get this and get the fundamentals. And then I start going like their timing. I do like a metronome basically. I do like 1, like pickups 1, 2, 3, and send it on 4. And that's like a big thing to get that muscle memory down and just like that kind of stuff. And then 2, I think like when I do those things, people are super nervous when they show up. Like I get a lot of females and older people. They're like businessmen that show up and they're really good at everything they do. Yeah. And they get out there and they're like nervous about sucking. And it's like, dude, you're here because we all suck at some time. Like man, I had casting videos of like me in my beginning. People would be like, "You're a guy? Like what?" Like, dude, I already know how bad it was. Like I saw it I can see. I'm visually looking at it in my head. Like I know what I cast like shit. And yeah,
I have casting videos of me. And no, I had a buddy get after me one day about dropping my back cast. Man, this guy's crazy.
It's huge, dude.
And then I went and reviewed some of the video from one of my rough logs, and I was watching. I was like, oh shit. And that's like what I would say though is like if you're learning and you're practicing, like if you either like set a phone up on a tripod or get somebody to film you, and so that you can get that vision. Because like I've noticed like when I'm trying to teach my wife and I tell her like, hey, you're dropping your back cast, she'll be like, oh, you wanna? Are we going there? And I'd be like, no, you are. But if I can like show her like on like, hey, look, see, this is you drop it, shoot it. Oh, okay, So if you can get that visualization to along, where you can go back and replay and look at it, I think it helps a lot.
I agree with you. Like that's where like with me doing like casting lessons, me being there and breaking down your cast like fundamentally, and then you have a background in like sports management and like stuff like that. So like movement and like you know what I mean, so I can look at your like movement already and kind of see like, oh, this is why. Or you see funny, I don't know, like you see a lot, like stepping back I see a ton of stuff. And same thing with the camera, like you set up a tripod, if I wasn't there you'd see it too. I get in front of guys, that's what I do a lot. Like that's like it's a secret to my casting lessons. I get in front of you a lot, like
looking at you
and you cast around me, because it's different though, because I'm able to see like what I can't see behind you. Like when you're on the front of my boat, like I can't see what your hands are doing. And then when I get in front of you, I'm like, whoa, what are you doing with that thumb there? And they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to do this? They're like, no. I'm like, oh, my buddy like, no, your buddy's wrong. So no, you get and then like fly fishing lawyer, like all the guys out there or whatever they call out, where like guys are giving like wrong information. All the time. You're like, what are you? YouTube, dude. Like I know your stuff's on YouTube. Like, I can't watch any of that. I can't watch fly fishing videos. I can't watch any of that stuff because the casting.
Because it just
it drives me nuts.
Don't watch this video.
No, but when I watch the dude's videos, I'm like, wait a minute, you're casting like shit. Like, not you. I'm saying no. When I see these videos, like guys like teaching other guys, I'm like, dude, your technique is so off.
So that's one of the reasons that like, well, not particularly off, but like I'll do like I have like videos where I do like tips, tricks, like how I do different things in fly fishing, and that's one of the things I always am like, look, this is how I do it. This might not be right, but it works for me, and like I'm always like, dude, leave it in the comments. Like if you have a better way or you pick something up, like because like I want like the whole point like with everything I do with Skiff Wanderer, like I want it to all be like a learning process. not only just for myself, but for anyone that's getting into it, I want like you to be able to say, like, okay, I watched this tips and tricks video. I learned a bunch. I can go down in the comment section. Here's a bunch of other things I can look at trying out too.
I think that's important. Like, I think like you documenting your journey. Like, I remember meeting you like 2 years ago, and I remember you caught your first fish, and like I was laughing. I was like, this dude bought a skiff and he's not caught a redfish yet. Like, okay.
On fly.
Yeah, fly. That's what I did. Yeah, and then like it was funny. Like, but I enjoyed it, and I think a lot of that stuff is like very important because like people just think like, dude, I don't know what people think them do with social media and the internet, and like people think the weirdest stuff, dude. And I get it, I understand, but coming from not learning that way, it's really hard for me to think about. And I wish when I was learning, somebody would sat me down and been like, hey man, stop dropping your back cast. And you don't realize how important it is at the time. And then when you start like breaking like physically and like in a geometry and like patterns and like how this works, and like it's all the rod.
Yeah.
Like fly fishing is all the like the mount it, like dude's like rocking my boat, like cut that out, or the guys don't realize they stomp. Like I've had guys that have been fly fishing for 20 years but guides their whole life, and every time they're dropping their cast, they stomp their foot on the front deck. And I'm like,
are they fishing rivers?
I don't know what they've been doing. And I'm like, hey man, what's up with that? I'm like, I don't do that. Like, yeah, look, watch, here's a recording of you doing it. Oh shit, for real? And you're like,
how long have you been doing that?
yeah, like nobody's told you, no guides told you not to do that, and that kind of stuff's interesting to me.
That's so one of the tips like that I've heard for like practicing, especially for salt water, is get you like one of those 35 or 45 quart Yetis
And stand
on it, because I've seen where the guys come on and they're just the whole boat's rocking all over the place, and like. If you're new to saltwater fishing, and you may or may not agree with this, like when you're doing that with the boat, it sends out a pressure wave, and I have watched that turn fish away from the boat. And that's where it's like, you do not need to be moving the lower half of your body. Like get yourself set. And that's like when I'm moving, like I'll move around up there, but if it's like, all right, we're getting into this area, it's like, all right, my best cast is going to be here. I need my body set up. And like I try to get situated before we get into that zone so that from the waist down is not moving, so that I'm not transferring any movement to the boat. But that's why I could tell guys like get on a cooler.
Oh no, I agree. Like coolers like a good thing. And I've thought about bringing like my casting platform and coolers and stuff for the deal, but I think that's like more like an intermediate, like a second or third, kind of like on like for me on a casting lesson. I want you to be like fundamental, like. That's the biggest problem I'm trying to teach guys on the skiff is like if you've never been on a skiff and you're trying to learn how to fly fish, there's so much going on, and then you have a guy in your back cast. And people don't realize that like in a park or on a river, there's nobody in your back cast typically. Like there could be. There might be.
Somebody that's not paying attention.
Yeah, but like on a poling skiff, there's always a guy in your back cast.
Yeah. And
I get hooked, like as a guide, I get hooked all the time. Like,
I mostly get hooked when Zach Landry's on the bow.
I'm a guy, Travis, that took me 3 times my right butt cheek. Same day, dude. That's the record.
Same day.
I had another client tie it, but nobody's beaten 3 in the right butt cheek. Like, dude, that's painful though after a while.
Please don't do that anymore.
In the ear. I have like a weird thing in my ear. Like seaweed or something stuck in the lobe. I don't know, whatever. Fishing, bro.
No, and that's the thing. Like when I get guys that are fishing with me, that I'm telling them constantly is pay attention to the wind. Pay attention, because that's what will happen. That's like when you're gonna hit the guide is when you're seeing a fish, you get really excited, and he's moving the boat, and you're not paying attention to the wind, and you go lay that back cast where the wind's coming across, and it's gonna blow right into the guide.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're gonna hear a.
And that's another thing too. Like. And going from like beginner, you're asking about like beginners on casting.
Yeah.
Get used to like like guys don't realize what time it is anymore, like time of a clock anymore. Right. It's like 12 o'clock is directly in front of my bow, like right in front of the boat. Not your 12 o'clock where you're looking. It's 12 o'clock at the bow. And that's spatial awareness too, like what you're saying is like when I'm turning the boat, like today you said you like 11, like that zone.
Yeah.
So when we see fish, I'm trying to turn you to set you up that way for the best possible shot. But but if you're not paying attention to the wind, or like if you're not realizing I'm turning you, like when you start doing your cast, guys get very like focused and tunnel vision on a fish, and they don't realize all the stuff going on around them. And like exactly what you're saying, like I'm turning the boat, and then your 12 o'clock's over here now, and you know what I mean? Guys will shift their body, like they don't even realize it. It's so subconscious, and I think getting that awareness and learning different casting tech. I try to give guys 2 or 3 casts. So I do across your chest. I think somebody calls it like a Belgian cast, maybe, or I don't know. But I do one instead of going like a back cast. Like I do it to your chest and out.
Oh.
And I'll show you that one too. It's really good for guys with like rotator cuff injuries, older guys. It's such a strong cast for so many younger people that don't have like really good arm strength or get tired, fatigued. I do that cast, so I'll teach you too. So it gives you that other cast on the other side of the boat. Because if you're right-handed, all your shots are usually left. Right. If you're gonna take a right-handed shot, you just do this quick other little cast. Yeah. It's one. Your stopping point's your shoulder, so the rod hits your shoulder, so you have to stop. So it's perfect stopping point. Yeah. And then it goes forward. And it's a one send, one go. So I try to teach that, and like, if you're just getting in a fight, you're like, this is it. Well, if I show you 2 other casts, or like, people are like 10 and 2, like that's cool, but like, have you ever sidearmed a fish? Like, there's a lot.
Have you ever tried to cast at 10 and 2 with 30 knots of wind?
Yeah, and that's where that sidearm comes into play, because like, we're in South Texas, it's primarily windy here, and that sidearm cast, because of the mangrove height, and the boat, the way it's set up, the wind comes off that, and it goes right your fly line's under that zone a lot of the times. Yeah. So I don't know, man. There's so much stuff that you could do, but timing, like, find somebody that really knows how to cast. That would help you, and have them like sit with you. Or hire a guide to do it, like for an hour. My casting lessons are like an hour. There's a bunch of guys like in Houston and Austin. It's like all the major cities in Texas. What was that? Oh. A lot of major cities in Texas have guys that do casting lessons, and shops offer it. Yeah. And so about a casting lesson is about $100, and I think it's a well invested $100. Another thing you can do is like, there's fly shops in all those towns too, and a lot of the time they have free casting lessons. I know places around here do that, and you could get on that. And there's fly clubs. There's a lot of fly clubs, like here in South Texas we have some. I know in Houston there's one. I think Austin has a fly club. And those are good resources to reach out to. And you could just show up and like start talking to guys, introducing yourself, and then see if anybody will help you. I mean, like you don't have to be a guide, you don't have to spend money. This is like, I always try to stay away from that because of my experience with Smorvis, about $2,500 and all that. It kind of turns you off from that, and being a college kid or being in the military or just having a normal 9 to 5, it's hard to justify spending money.
All the time.
That much. Yeah. So like, I don't know, man, there's so many little things, but I would just say like patience, and like, just know it takes 2 years, man.
Oh my goodness.
Like minimum, like I'm not even lying, like if you go from the freshwater to the salt, or you move here just to throw plastics or shrimp, it takes 2 years to learn this fishery. Like, I don't give a shit who you are.
I don't care what you're using.
No, it's 2 years. Like, there's so much water, and there's so much hazards, and so much reef, and pipelines, and island. There's so much places to go. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like the number of times like that I've just like been polling someplace that I've pulled like five times, and then like on the 6th time I'm pulling through there, and I'm like, there's enough. I've never been in that creek. And then you just start pulling up that creek, and you're just pulling, and the next thing you know, the creek opens up into a giant pond, and there's redfish all over it, and you're like, what have I been doing with my life? And it just is though. Like, I mean, it's a lot of like learn. I mean, this is anywhere that you're learning fishery is like, you know, you're gonna find it just takes time, and eventually you're gonna figure out a way to catch fish consistently, and you'll fall into a pattern of this is how I know I can catch fish. And one day that's not gonna work, and that's the day when you're gonna go out and explore. You're not gonna just, you know, necessarily be like, hell, it's Saturday, I don't feel like actually catching fish, I'm gonna go try something new. Which if you do is awesome. But like most of the time, if it's your one day off or your one afternoon off, like you want to have success. And so it takes those days of not having success, and that's why it takes so long.
Yeah,
I think.
It's a valid point too. Like guys that do it like 9 to 5, like have a 9 to 5, only get like a day or two off on a weekend. Like it's hard to go fly fishing or fishing just once or twice a month, and then you have no like it starts all over again.
Yeah.
Like if you come fishing with me in April, and then you go to May, and then go to June, July. Each month's different.
And that's what's like. And that's what, especially like with what I've been doing, where I go to sea for 2 or 3 months, and I come back.
Yeah.
And I'll like come back, and I'll have friends, or even like today is my first day back on the water, and it's like, so where are we going? I'm like, I've been here for 2 months. I don't know what they're doing, man. I don't know where they are. I don't even know what the water. Like I'll have friends like, so how's the fishing in Corpus? Like I don't even know what the water level's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even made it across the bridge to see if there's water in the bay right now, or where we're at with things. And it's been like, I think this is my third like September.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, all right, September. I'm starting to be able to put together a September plan.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't work in May.
No.
Or March.
It's crazy to me the dudes show up on the boat and they're like, we need to go over here. They're fighting over there. Like, how do you know? Like, oh, I caught fish over there like 15 years ago. You're like, when? Like, I don't know.
It was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah, like
you weren't there?
Yeah, what month was that? Like, well, I don't know.
I thought you were from here.
So that's crazy to me. Like, like it will change just from the north to south wind. Like, the whole thing changes.
Or just like the rain.
So yeah, I think that's like the biggest problem though. Is just like
it just takes time.
You have to get the fishery changes here every single month. It can change daily, weekly. Like I'll slay it for like 2 or 3 days, and we'll go out that third day, and I'll like oh, I'm not gonna tell you we're gonna crush it. We're gonna jack these fish up today. And you go out there, and those fish are all gone. They're gone. And you're like, oh man, that sucks. I'm a guy, I promise.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I say just like time though, like putting time in and practicing constantly, and like use your resources around you and stuff like that is really like a good starting base.
Yeah. And
then your videos, your like all your not like stop videos and all that stuff, I think is really cool. Like I think that's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
No, I mean seriously, that's like huge. Like you tied a knot the other day, and I was like, oh, that's how that one goes. Like I've been putting it in the wrong section, like the tag in through like a wrong spot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. It's a visual. I mean, we're all learn different. Visual's a good way.
Those are fun to do. Mm-hmm. Sort of. Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
It looks like a lot of work.
Like the first time I did one, I got done with it, and I was like, I ran across the house to show my wife. Like, look at this, and she was like, "That's great.
Yeah.
Why are you bothering me?"
Like, why do you have 2 ropes just like moving around like Gumby? You're like, no, babe, I promise.
No, this is cool.
It's gonna catch on, I promise.
It's gonna be a thing.
Yeah. It is though. Like
apparently.
Yeah. I think so. They're like, man, there's like nobody in the game that's done that like that.
I just got tired of looking at people's hands.
Yeah, I got tired of the pictures, like the picture shit.
Yeah,
like
it was either like a picture, and then you're like, where did that? Wait, you like the picture graphs,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, okay, yeah, but how did they get from step 2 to 3? There needs to be a step 2.5.
Yeah, and don't use the same color line.
Yeah,
that's what it's. So hard.
Yeah, that.
Dude, it's so hard to tell something like.
And then, or it'll be like, hey, I'm going to use a orange line and a pink line.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
No contrast. There's all my secrets to not tying videos. We're gonna switch gears a little bit.
All right.
So you do, like, I don't even know. Since I don't really know the background how you got into it. It's hard to like do a smooth transition. So we're just gonna like. I was going to try to do it.
Godzilla.
Wishes for Warriors.
Yeah, dude. What do you even know? That's a great organization.
So you do a lot with them. So Marcus does a lot with a group called Wishes for Warriors. So basically, like, you started teaching fly fishing. Is that like how you got into it? Was from teaching?
No.
How did you get into it?
Wait, like originally?
Like, yeah. How did you start doing stuff with them?
Oh, so I was in Afghanistan with the president of the company, this guy Brian Marshall. And when we were working in Afghanistan, he left, and then he started working for a company and saw the need for basically veterans that were there's like a lot of like vets that no, I'm not going to say like milk the system. Like, we can say that. There's a lot of vets that milk the system. That like, they're not hurt or like don't have stuff going on. And they figured out a way like to get like basically like money and trips and all this stuff all the time. And he was seeing that there was a lot of guys that were like really disabled that didn't know about opportunities or weren't applying to these opportunities. So he started a nonprofit, which is for warriors, and you have to be 50% combat disabled to be able to go. So over the 10 years they've been in business as long as I have. It's I think it's like a 501. I think it's what
501c.
501c. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be like wrong and say, but anyway, they're a 501c, and as long as he's done that, they started out doing hunts, right? And I love to hunt, but I'm not taking vets hunting. Like, I'm not carrying you up a mountain and then like humping you and an elk off. Like, and it's like all that kind of stuff. It's just like, I don't know. I don't have a background in it. I'm not an elk hunter. It's like that's what they were doing, big game stuff at first. Well, then over the years we've talked, and like he's been trying to get me to do clinics, and we've done some dove hunts. Like 5-6 years ago, we did a dove hunt, hog hunt here with some vets. It was really powerful for me, and I always wanted to get into it, but I don't want to take vets hunting personally. Like, it's just not. I don't know what it is. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't see the benefit in it. But I see the benefit of getting you in the woods, like camping.
Yeah. Getting
in the woods, fishing. I see hiking, yoga, like all these things. I see the benefits. Photography, like all these different things. I see the benefit for vets on that, and that's what I've always wanted to do. So he came to me about 1.5 years ago, and kind of was like, "Hey man, let's get serious about this. Like, I really want you on board. Like, come on a trip with us. Like, feel the vibe." So we did that, and I've been doing trips now since last December, every single month. Not only I started doing the legit, like a 3 in charge now, the nonprofit. I don't get paid; it's all volunteer work. It's about it's like 150 hours a month volunteer work. But that's my tribe. Like, I'm a fly fishing guide, but my tribe is veteran. Like, that's where I feel like comfortable, and that's my true self around that audience and group. And I love it, man. I like helping people, like teaching already, so like being able to go and like listen to guys' stories, and kind of like, I don't know, I'm a people pleaser, and I'm in the service industry. I'm a guide, so like servicing other people is like a calling for me almost. I know that sounds so cheesy. I know like everybody's like, "Oh, it's my calling," but like, no, that really is, man. That's like what I love doing. Like, I look forward to those trips. I like plan it. We do all this stuff. It's a lot of work. Like, people don't realize what it goes to send 4 to 15 guys to like the Rogue River in Oregon or snowboarding in Jackson Hole. And we pay our way, dude. It's not like we're calling people like, "Oh, we're a vet organization, we want free shit." Like, we're writing you a check. Like, we're showing up, we're doing this right. Like, we have camera crews, we have like, it's a real deal. We cook for the vets, and it's the most rewarding thing I've done in the last like probably 20 years. Like, seriously, like, it's a great group of guys. I have a fly fishing thing coming up. We have a tournament coming up pretty soon. At the end of this month, I'm doing a fly fishing clinic in Port O'Connor. I'm really stoked about that. It'll be my second one now. The first one is kind of like, honestly, like my first kind of wishes trip, like on my own. And it was exhausting. Like, entertaining people for 3 days is so exhausting. And then going on these other trips are super exhausting. Like, my girlfriend like did a yoga thing this weekend. She was like, "Oh my god, it's so rewarding but exhausting." Like, yeah, try like 5-6 days like on a mountain with dudes.
A bunch of dudes
that are like alphas, and it's great because like you meet a bunch of different. We were in Alaska recently. We had this guy Eric, who's a badass triple amputee, like just kicking it, like both legs and an arm missing. And you're like, dude, he's sitting there doing everything we are, like
that's
everything, catching salmon and all that. And just like to hear his story, and it's like, if you're ever down on yourself or like having a hard time, like you meet guys like this and you're like, why am I being such a little bitch? And like, not to cuss, but for real, like, why am I so hard on myself or so depressed about something that, you know, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, I can zip my own pants up.
Yeah.
Like, I could put my own shoes on. Like, I can run. Like, why am I being so down on myself about like guys not catching fish? Like, oh, suck. That was because they suck. That's why they aren't catching fish. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like those kind of things like put your life into perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
It's good to have a reality check, and I really enjoy it. We do a lot of cool shit, man.
Like what? Like I know you mentioned Alaska, the Rogue River. You're doing stuff here.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the wishes originally started, like I said, it was like hunting.
Yeah.
And we've really shied away from that.
Really?
The president's kind of gotten out of it. So to send 2 guys on an elk hunt with like me and the guy band, the president, and a photographer, it's like 15-20K.
Yeah.
For 2 guys.
Yeah.
I can send 10, 15 dudes on a whitewater rafting trip down a river together, bonding for 15K.
Yeah, and it's not quiet by yourself in the woods.
It's quiet by yourself, and then you're not getting any. You're out there killing something, and then you leave, and you don't have the camaraderie. You don't have the. You do, but it's like small batch. Like me and you are sitting on a mountain. Like, what are you getting from that? Versus like you with 10 other vets. Because say you're injured, you're missing limbs, or we had a guy this last week. Like 38% of his body was burned. You would have never known. And like these guys all telling their stories. Like I met a guy that's in way better shape than I am, like total stud. And you're like, what do you mean you've been shot in the chest like 6 times? Like, what? Like you don't have any lung? Like you have a 30-year lungs? Like,
jeez. To
me that's wild. It's just the triumph of man, like what we can do as a human race. Like, dude, like the power of your brain, like what you could push through. And then you see people like, I don't know, like because they don't have the newest iPhone, and you're just like, ugh, okay, dude. Like, I'm glad we did all this stuff for you to bitch about. But that's good. Like, hey, man, we live in a society, in a world where like you should be able to bitch about iPhones like not being the newest one. Like, fuck, this is America. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could do whatever you want. Like me and my boys fought for that, and the generation, my grandpa, like generations before us fought for that to be like, you can do whatever you want. You can make out with whoever you want. I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. It just blows me away. We went off on a tangent there. No, but, so yeah, we did Alaska recently, and that was a fishing trip. That was out of control. That was 2 days of halibut fishing.
Yeah.
A day of rainbow trout fishing. A fly-in trip. You flying over a glacier.
Yeah.
You like land in this glacier runoff, and you're catching salmon. And then we did some kayaking, like an Indian reservation on a lake. Like no fishing, we did fish on there. It was like us, like just having a chill day, non-stuff. And then it was awesome, like great experience. But it's life-changing. Like you see these guys, like I've seen where I've gotten like, you almost get to a point, I was saying, like jaded, where you're like, oh, I have to go on you're going on these trips. But like, this is that guy's, like people don't realize, like that's the only trip this guy, like I go on these trips and this guy hasn't left his house in 10 years. They have, like, they take their kids to school and they come home and...
They haven't gone on, like a big adventure.
Yeah, they haven't done, or anything with a group of men. It's always them, you're going on vacation with your wife and kids. Like, always, that kind of stuff. And it's like, you have to think about this stuff. Like, most of the guys are 100% disabled. Like, don't have jobs. Or they do have jobs, but a lot of them don't. Or they work from home and they never leave. I mean... You know what I mean? They're at home and they're watching TV and playing video games and like reading and like doing stuff at home and like that kind of stuff. And then they don't have that. And your endorphins from like working out. I think it's endorphin. Yeah. From like working out and all that. And that honestly, like of all the BS, like all the stuff these vet organizations do, the best thing I think I've noticed is getting men together. It doesn't even matter if they're veterans. Let's backtrack that. Getting men together and getting them like laughing and spending time together away from their normal everyday life, like what we do on the boat, but on a bigger standard, is so beneficial, not only to men, but women. Like, you need that connection in life, and like we're like ants, man. Like, honestly, like we're a colony of ants in this world, and like we always want to belong to something or be a part of a tribe or like a group of people. And it's, for people listening to this, like, if you're like, I'm the whole, like, no, everybody. I was just at a thing and all these women are just like, we want to go on adventures all over the world, but we want somebody to go with us. Yeah. Or like all these things. And it's like, everybody just wants that love, that laughter, and that event. Like everybody, like, and you get so stuck in your routine, and these guys get so stuck in a routine that it's sad. Like sometimes it's sad. It breaks my heart. Like, oh man, like, I'm not gonna tear up. But anyway, like some of this shit is like so sad. You're like, dude, like I don't know, man. Like they don't take opportunity. Like they don't.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like when you see a guy show up to an event, and he's really closed off, and he's like not very open, and at the end, like after 7 days, they're like
ready to go.
They're
having
pumped.
the time of their life,
and they're like texting me for months and sending me pictures of their wife and kids. Like weeks and months later, like that's powerful because like.
Yeah.
Or like the fly fishing clinic, those dudes all got hardcore into fly fishing. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, and I had
That's awesome.
a guy on Instagram. Dude, this is how powerful like social media is. A guy on Instagram saw that and asked if it's okay if he can mail me setups for that. I was like, whatever, man. Like, dude. So one day, like a box of rods all came here, and now with the postal system, I wish I didn't know. It's like $100 a setup to mail out to them, but he sent them fly rods, reels, fly cases, like tying it, all this shit. And
I just got them started.
Right, and like, and then they're calling me and calling him and like, hey man, thanks. And they're like catching fish.
Like they're
on their own.
They're all fishing on their own.
Yeah, like in Florida. They live in Florida. They're like, dude, I didn't even realize I had. Like, dude, you don't catch peacocks in your ditches? They're like, no, I see them all the time. I'm like, dude.
Here you go.
Here you go. And they were fishy. Like they fish. They were very fishy dudes, but they never tried fly fishing.
I get you.
So what I mean? So then when they're like, oh my god, this just opened a whole new world.
Yeah.
Like there's a guy in Rockport right now catching like triple tail.
Oh, like a baby triple tail.
Yeah, dude, like
you're crazy.
Crazy. And then the micro.
It's awesome.
It's so awesome. I know, dude, there's probably guys like out there hating on that and all that, but whatever, like getting outside and being a part of a community somehow around other people, being social is so good for your psyche and your soul. Like people don't even realize that. And that's what the fishing is. And that's what like Wishes for Warriors for me is like, it turned out I went into it very open-minded, and my buddy knows me, that's the president and the owner, and him and his wife know me, and they wanted my input. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it was like, I want you here to tell me like what's wrong and what's right. And like, you know what I mean? Because like 10 years, like when you come on my boat, I've been doing this for 10 years, and you're like, oh my God, look at those dolphins. Man, we're using that as a super easy example. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget, you don't ever see dolphins. So
yeah.
And it's just getting those things, and that's what I'm doing it. Like, man, it'd be super cool if I could get paid for it one day. Like, so if you have a whole bunch of money when a vet donates to a veteran organization, so all the volunteers can get paid one day, that'd be super cool. It's wishesforwarriors.org. But, yeah. It's a lot of work, dude. Like,
I bet. Oh, dude, I've planned trips. I know.
Yeah.
And then, but you're talking about adding a level of guys coming from all over the country. Oh God, I don't even want to think about organizing plane flights coming in.
Dude, that's my job now. Is I'm in charge of logistics and I host. So
yeah.
They're transitioning me into like buying all the flights for everybody. And it's like, dude, what you just said is correct. The hardest part of all of this is the logistics, getting guys from point A to B. So like all our flights coming in, our flights is what hurt us. Like I have a really good cameraman we work with. I've been working with on these trips. To like document stuff, but he knows my routine now, and like we work really well together. And he has come in like this Rogue River trip. My flight got delayed, and we were stuck in I think Denver or somewhere. And one of the vets was actually with me. We like met at the airport, we're like buying a beer together, like hanging out, and then met some cool people.
Yeah.
But the cameraman got there and was able to like take care of all the other guys and make sure they got fed and like got all their stuff they needed and last minute supplies before we hit the river. And like that kind of stuff is just like, yes.
Yeah.
And he's a civilian, he's not ex-military is what I mean. And for him, it's like
been around it.
Yeah, he's around it. And it's been like, we've been on like 5 trips together, and man, it's like it's good, man, like to have these dudes. Anyway, I went totally. I love it though.
How if somebody was a disabled vet and they wanted to go on a trip with you, how would they go about?
So I would say there's like on the wishesforwarrior.org website, we have like an application for like an events page. I'm sorry, and on the events page we have everything. We have international trips. All our stuff's right now in the U.S. But you go on there and you kind of look at what events are out there, and you can apply to each one.
Okay.
So when you go to apply, you have to like just fill out some form, and that's one of the man, you'd be shocked how many guys don't go on trips because they have to fill out a one-page form. You're getting like a $5,000 trip for free, and you
gotta fill out one form.
Dude, men are so stubborn. Like,
so
I'm not even joking, dude. It's like I'm like on the like, dude, fill out the form. Oh man, I just don't feel like it.
All right, so if you know someone, send this to their wives.
Yeah, the wives are the ones to do it all. Yeah, like honestly, like any wives or girlfriends of a vet, please apply. And then too, like we said, the 50%. There's been guys that we've gone on like 40%. You know what I mean? Like yeah. Like
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like the VA is a tricky situation on like the ratings and stuff like that, and I would say do not apply because of something like that. Like,
I get you.
Yeah. Like you might not go, but you might go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then but we pay for flights, food, hotel, every bag, one bag. Like you show up and we pick you up and we drop you off. Like, and then I'm with you the whole time. So if you don't like me, like, sucks to be you.
And if you're not sure, if you like Marcus, and you should listen to his podcast. Then you probably will like him.
No, I don't know about that either. I'm kind of a dick on some of them, dude. I go after Croaker Soaker. Anyway. But go to wishesforwarriors.org and you can apply there. And we have an events page, and we have I have a fly fishing clinic coming up. I don't know when this podcast will be out, but that's in the end of the month. You can apply to that one. And then next month in Utah, we have a mountain bike course for 15 vets. We're flying into Salt Lake City. We're doing 15 vets, mountain biking in like at a resort in the backcountry. We have guides and all that kind of stuff, and it's gonna be really awesome. We have our second in command, this guy Dominic. He's an amputee and he crushes it. Like he's in Salt Lake and he's in college, so he has like all these hookups, like for meeting people and like So like Jackson Hole, like he set up the snowboarding clinic in Jackson Hole and this mountain biking one, and that's where we're going. Bigger groups, bigger camaraderie, bigger network. So guys in Texas, like, hey, guys in San Antonio, or like you meet other vets in your hometown or local areas too, and you're like, oh man, we can hang out sometime. Yeah. And like all those guys on the Rogue River, like there's 3 guys from Texas and me, I'm the 4th or whatever. Everybody always like gives me shit about that. But anyway, those 3 guys all went hog hunting this weekend together.
They didn't even call you?
No, they called me. But they all reached out to me like, hey, what's is this his number? Is this so-and-so's number? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then they call each other and they set up where they all went hog hunting this weekend together. And like, that's powerful to me because that's another thing that like we're trying to get to. Because it's about empowering men to be able to do their own thing.
Because I mean, it definitely, and I can't speak from a vet or a disabled vet standpoint, but it definitely seems like you hit like 30, and like it just seems like you kind of like, especially like for me, like moving around a lot, you hit 30 and it's hard to make friends. It's hard to find dudes to go do stuff with, and it sounds like you guys like set up like with through Wishes for Warriors, like, you know, like 3 guys met on a trip in Oregon or Washington, and now they're realize they live close to each other, and they're, you know, and it's just that's awesome.
It's powerful, and I think it's like we were saying earlier, is like getting guys off the couch, and that's a way to do it. And it's like, you know, we as an organization, we're spending money, like we burn money, not like for nothing, for like everything's like penny pinch, but like we spend money on vets. Like if a vet misses a flight or a guy gets hurt, we're paying your expenses. We fly him home. Like it happens.
Take care of him.
I got hurt on the Jackson Hole trip and I stayed. We had another guy who like didn't want to stay. I mean, I already had the week off. I was like, what am I going to do? I have a broken ankle. What am I going to do? But he took off. We bought him a flight. You know, a last minute trip from Jackson Hole is not cheap. You know what I mean? But like
a planned trip from Jackson Hole isn't cheap.
But it is what it is, and like we're blessed to be able to do that. I'm truly blessed to be involved in that and to be asked to be like to do that. We'll just see what happens. By the time this podcast's over, like I could be like not doing it. No, I'm just kidding. It's like that's what I would love to transition to. If I could really just like get into that veteran organization and run it, that'd be not run it or be in, just be involved. Full-time. Yeah, full time. That'd be cool. And then guide on the side, like turn this into a part-time deal.
Turn it around what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like again, it's like as a guide and like my college degrees and like that kind of stuff has helped me get to this point. And then to meeting these guys was for my military career, and then combining those two worlds together, like guiding and like showing people different teaching and like on the Rogue River, I got us all doing yoga.
All right, story time.
So we recently went to the Rogue River. Like I said, it's fresh in my mind, so it's kind of like kind of what I want to talk for. So the president, the number two, Dom and Bam, or Brian, I mentioned earlier, they're very like alpha, like yoga's not in their wheelhouse. Yeah. Like Bam's turning into a hippie, so he's like learning, he's like gardening, and like he's realizing the bit. You know what I mean? Like you go through these transitions in life at the age, like you're talking about 30 to 40. There's a difference in life there. So he's getting into that zone. So we were on the river, and I was like, hey guys, like how about one of these mornings we have like these mats you sleep on? Like, and we all slept under the stars. They have tents and stuff for us, but we just said no tents. Like we'll sleep outside. It's way nice that way. I mean, if you're getting eaten by a bear, you might as well like make it easy for them. So I was like, let's take these mats and let's do like yoga in the morning, but like not do yoga. Let's just have Brady, our cameraman, like set it up like we're doing yoga, fly the drone around, like fly the drone and just like doing like push up like yoga thingies, like whatever they're called, and like downward dogs or whatever. And everybody was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I was going to do it and just send it to them, like, hey man, thanks for sending on this holistic trip, like, to the press and shit, like, like, what are you doing, dude, like, doc, because I'm super hit, like, that's just my Zen thing, like, I'm weird, I'm a very holistic, I don't believe in, like, a bunch of medicine and shit, but anyway, so I was like, let's do that approach or whatever, and everybody was in. Well, I don't know anything about yoga. Like, I've done it, I do it, like, I'll go, but I don't know, like, I don't even know what the words of the stuff's called, and, one of the river guides, this young guy, Miles, was like, oh, I know how to do yoga. Another dude's like, he's got like 100 hours like instructing. I was like, get up here, bro. So he's like, instead of just like doing a pose to get the shot, let's like run through like a thing, whatever, sequence or whatever. I don't know what it's called, yogis. But anyway, you run through that. So we did it, and all of us, dude, like got done. I was like, a joke. Like, this is like a joke, and we all got up, and everybody's like, "Hey, doc, can we like keep doing this? Like, is it cool?" And you have like 10 dudes that are they've never done yoga, like ever, and it wouldn't even be in their realm, but they all loved it. And two, but being disabled, you're like on a river, you're rowing every day, like it's a lot of physical. We're jumping off rocks, and guys are falling off waterfalls, so like. That stretching early morning and like gets you awake and moving and like comfortable, and I saw the benefits that instant. You have 10 dudes look at you like, can we keep doing this? And the instructor's like, yeah. So we did like 45 minutes to an hour of yoga. So something that turned into a joke turned out to be well. So now we're not going to hold yoga retreats. Yeah. We're going to start like on a snowboarding trip, like introducing a yogi to come to the house in the morning or evening one day. Like,
if you want to come.
Yeah, and it's just one of those deals to like get guys like, you're opening their brain to new ideas. And if you have a guy that has like blown up out of an LAV, or out of a Humvee and like thrown across a road, he has shoulder pain and these injuries, and it's like, wait a minute, that stretch makes it feel better, and like I'm not having to take like some kind of pill to kill the pain, and I could have done this. Like you open their mind to that, like I think it's powerful. Like those are powerful things, and that's what I'm on board for. Like if we start going around the mountain shooting elk again, like I'm out. But like I'll go do it. Like I said, I've never done it, but I'm not going to do it with vets on a vet trip. I'm not saying I'm not opposed to it. I don't feel comfortable hosting or doing something like that.
No, it makes sense. Like something like fishing and camping and hiking or even mountain biking, where you can sit there and spend the whole day together. Yeah. And it's not like, hey, we're going to go sit over here and we're going to be quiet for 8 hours. Yeah. Like, okay, well, I can do that at home.
That's the way I look at it. It's just like, man. And so that's what I'm really like on board for, and that's kind of where we've been pushing that. And then too, like we had guys that were like wanting to learn how to fly. Like I brought fly equipment on this trip, and 2 or 3 guys were like, hey man, do you mind teaching? I'm like, hell yeah, I'll teach you. And like just showing them that, and like doing casting lessons on the river, like, and then do caught a fish, and you're like, yes. And it's like a black bear eating like berries, and like you're like, dude, this is our life. Like your life is anything you want it to be, and you hear people say it all the time, like, oh, you can do whatever. You really can. You know that. I'm like, you take out a piece of paper and write your story. Like, you can do anything you want in this world. Like, anything. I don't care if you're 50. I don't care if you're 20. If you're 20, just keep partying, having fun. Like, discover life. But, like, and you can do anything you want. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, but you should fly fish with me sometime. That's what you should do. No, I'm just kidding.
The best place to start figuring out what you want to do with your life the whole time is fly fishing.
Yeah, you just come sit on my skiff.
Marcus.
Yeah. Don't do that, dude. Like, oh man, there's so many moms that probably hate me for other reasons. For teaching their kids how to fly fish and like not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That came out. I was like, no, I'm not doing. That's not. All these moms out there, they hate me. No, it's because they probably like had aspirations of their children being like
not fly fishing
bums, and I created so many little fly fishing bums. You're just like, oh no.
Dude, it's funny. Like as like I've progressed through this whole entire like really chasing like what I want to do on a daily basis. Like I was nervous at first, like talking to my parents about it. Like at 33, when I like have a full-time job and can do whatever I want with my life, I was still nervous about talking with them.
It's perfect.
And now they're like I'll call them and be like, hey, this happened with my business, with what I'm doing today, and they'll be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
When are you quitting? When are you going full time? So it's it's like I don't know. I think like you said, like figure out what you want to do with your life. You can do whatever you want, and like don't worry about what anybody thinks.
Yeah,
because don't do something that's gonna be like hurtful to other people.
Yeah, that's like my golden rule. Like, just don't hurt other people. Like, don't hurt. Don't be a dick. Like, you can do anything you want in this world. Just don't hurt people. Like, that's it. Like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
In this fly fishing industry, it can be very dickish. I mean, any industry is very dickish, but like, yeah.
It's the same thing if you're on the flats. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Don't cut me
We're
off.
all here to enjoy it.
Yeah, don't run me over with your boat like yesterday almost happened. Like, why?
Oh, that's
Anyway,
so if let's start with recap. Wishes for Warriors. If anybody wants to check that out, how do they do it?
Wishesforwarriors.org. And you go on there, and there's an events page. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there. The like title shot is a picture of like last year's Rogue River trip. So you there's a photo stuff like on there. You can go to their Instagram page, Wishes for Warriors, and that's like the number 4, and check all that out. And you can also apply on there. And then too, if you apply, like Alaska, the Rogue River, some of these trips, we're gonna have like a Costa Rica whitewater. Like these kind of things are the popular trips. There's stuff that's like my fly fishing clinic, like 15 people will apply. Alaska, like 170 people apply.
Yeah.
Well, last summer 170 people applied to Alaska, but this year like 25 did.
Yeah, so you never know.
You never know, like it could be, and then like there's so much to it, and if you miss a trip or you're in the database already, like you know what I mean? It's like getting like points like in the.
Oh no! Yeah.
You're not getting points, but like we like think about that, like oh man, this guy's applied to this river trip twice. Like third year, like dude, that guy's going.
Yeah, we're making sure he's on it.
Yeah, because like a lot of times, like third year, guys won't apply anymore. They're like, oh, I'll never get it. And then,
yeah.
But anyway, it's just part of it. You just got to keep applying.
Yeah.
Alaska's going to be our big one next year. I would start looking at that now. We're going to do 3 Alaska trips starting in the summers now instead of just doing 1. We're gonna start
because it's so popular.
Yeah, it's so popular.
That's awesome.
And it's so life-changing. It's so affordable for us to do, like, as a group. We have to look at, like, benefit, cost, and reward. Yeah, anyway.
And then if someone wants to come fishing with you?
You go to docsfishingclinic.com or call me. Call me, or I just say docsfishingclinic.com or call me, or like you can hit me up on like Instagram. I live to fish, whatever.
Yeah. If somebody wants casting lessons, just talk to you about it.
Yeah, just call me.
Just call and talk
hit
about
me up. Yeah. I like those, dude. I honestly love the casting lessons. Like,
yeah.
So many guys get so pissed about it, but like, dude, it's like I don't do casting lessons during the day. I do them like at 6 o'clock at night.
So that's cool.
So I mean, yeah, when it's cooled off, guys are able to get off work, like, and we just meet at the park.
That's perfect. So it's not like, hey, I got to book a full day with you to get a casting lesson.
No. You could just call me, and for $100, I'll meet you at a park, like on a day. Yeah, it's like, oh, do you have this Tuesday open? Like,
do you ever do like, hey, I want to come fishing with you Wednesday, but I want a casting lesson. Can we We do that Tuesday night.
Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, a lot. And too, like a lot of people are like, oh, maybe we should just do a casting lesson too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But yeah, and then too, like I don't think it's always, if you never fly fish, it's probably necessary. But like,
Yeah.
I can get you dialed in pretty quick on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I set up a lot of the times in the morning for our guys to work 20 minutes of kinks out.
Yeah, yeah.
So like if you're fishing me a bunch, you're going straight to the fishing spot. If you're like how this morning
Yeah.
we went into that spot.
Is that why we didn't see any fish right away?
Yeah, right.
You're letting me work the kinks out?
Yeah, I fished first, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I slayed it though.
Dude, you caught all the ladyfish.
All the ladyfish.
Oh my goodness.
So funny. But yeah, like I would have normally stopped outside of that area and pulled like 20 minutes into it to get your like legs and your body comfort. You know what I mean? Like wake up at 7 in the morning. Dudes are asleep. I'm not, because I've been up for like 3 hours. But
that's what like I always tell guys, even if like you've been fly fishing your whole life, like you get up there, like just cast a few times.
Yeah.
It's like nobody like no one comes into the baseball game without warming up.
Oh, it's crazy to me. Dude's just like, let's go. And you're like, hey man, like dude, just warm up for a minute, dude. Like stretch it out. Yeah. But yeah, that's how you get a hold of me. Like docsfishingclinic.com.
And I'm gonna leave links for all of it down below.
Oh sweet.
In the show notes. Yeah, I think those are the only places I can leave links.
I don't know.
Down in there. See, you guys haven't started doing video yet for the Wilder Bend podcast. So I'll put a link for that down there too.
Yeah, you guys can check us out there.
Somewhere in there. Not on video, but it's on Apple. No.
Oh, fuck. Now you're good, dude. I laugh about that all the time. We're on all platforms.
Got banned from Apple.
Yeah, I don't know if we're banned. I just don't know why it doesn't up. I don't know. Apple's kind of a pain to deal with for podcasts. But all the platforms except Apple, our older stuff, like we have 55 episodes on Apple, but like none of like the
newer stuff.
We're like on 70 something now, and like none of that stuff's on there. So there's like 25 now, but you can listen to Spotify or go to wilderbend.com. It has all that stuff. It's a website that has all our stuff on it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll leave it down below for you.
Cool, I appreciate it.
And then yeah, so for me, guys, please, if you could do me a favor and leave a review. Tell me how awesome this podcast is. Tell Apple how awesome, or Spotify how awesome this podcast is, so that it'll help the podcast out. If you're on YouTube, please hit like, hit subscribe, all that stuff. Marcus, we're gonna slay him tomorrow.
Oh yeah, tomorrow's gonna be a good day, dude. I can't believe we saw so many fish today at that lap. Like, dude, you said it. You had a joke we were gonna make onto a T-shirt, and then like, no shit, that totally happened, dude.
That's right.
Like you're like, oh no, we're not gonna give it away because you want to make money off it later. Like,
the last spot you catch fish is where the fish are at.
Yeah, that's where they're at. All right.
Oh
like,
my goodness.
That was awesome. That was a good day, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you.